What's up, everybody? Happy Thursday. Welcome to episode 7 of Revenue Talent Talks. I am your host, Chris Gannon, the founder of Captivate Talent. And today I am joined by Kristen Hatton, the senior SDR manager at Muck Rack. Welcome to the show, Kristen. How are you today?
Thank you. I'm great. How are you?
I'm having a fantastic day. It's the first day of not summer, I guess. First Thursday of not summer. So it's kind of nice out. Not too hot.
It feels
Beautiful.
very fallish today, which I like. I
Yeah,
get
very fallish.
My fall clothes now. So I'm excited.
No sweaters yet, though.
No
sweaters yet. It's a little too hot. So Kristen, we met 2.5 years ago, right? 2.5 years ago at this point.
Yeah, lets me get my job.
Yeah, you landed at Muck Rack, and let's get. There's some big news yesterday, so maybe we should talk about that. You guys got $180 million in Series A funding, so congrats.
Oh my gosh, we're so excited. It's incredible. So we all feel super just like grateful and really excited for the future of the company.
I'm curious too, like as a sales leader in the company, like what's that mean for you? Like more budget, more fun, more people to hire, bigger roles?
No, we're definitely hiring like crazy. So my team is definitely going to expand and scale, which I'm very excited about. We already started hiring more people, so I've been doing a ton of interviewing. That's mostly what I did today. We're going to do an in-person company-wide event. So I'm so excited. I mean, I manage my team remotely. So 75% of them I've never actually met in person. So it'll be very awesome to have the opportunity to meet in person and just sit down with them face to face, not in a box. So I'm very excited about that.
Muck Rack pre-COVID was a fully remote company, right? They were one of the few.
Yep. So we were fully remote, but we had an office in New York City.
Very cool. Very cool. So today, I think we can cover a few things. I know there's a lot of listeners out there that are interested in your career path, how you went from SDR to an SDR leader and how you navigated that pathway to management. Also, I know there's a few sales leaders out there who have asked me, they were like, we need to hire like a new SDR leader. And when I asked them why, they're like, well, we need to get people back in the office. So we need somebody local. So I want to pick your brain a little bit about some like top tips about how to manage an SDR team remotely, because you've done it almost your whole career now at this point from a management standpoint.
My first SDR manager role at Building Connected, we were in office. And then I transitioned over to Muck Rack and my team was fully remote. We did have an office and I was actually planning on going in like a couple times a week. But then when the pandemic happened, I was fully remote, which was definitely a transition for me. But now it's all that I know and we're crushing it. So it's working.
And I'm curious about like the beginning part of your career and how you got to where you are today. Actually, what was your first job? Like your first job where you got a paycheck?
I would say it was either ShopRite or Dunkin' Donuts. I can't remember exactly which one it was, but it probably was ShopRite in high school.
And I always ask my guests, did you learn anything from that job? Did you take anything away from it? Was there anything like valuable that you walked away from?
Well, I started off as a bagger, so I would just bag people's groceries. And what's hilarious is the other day I went to ShopRite and I went on Sunday and it was super busy. And I bagged my groceries and the gentleman behind me is like, that was an incredible bagging job. And I was like, you got to come prepared when it's this crazy. So, I mean, I can bag my groceries really well. And I mean, when I see people there, I've worked there. So it feels home-ish to me. But I just feel like consistency is probably something that I took away from that. Just showing up every single day, being consistent is definitely something that I bring to my current job. So I'd say that would probably be my biggest takeaway.
Awesome. And the first job we see on your LinkedIn profile, you worked for a company that had, I think the name's a little funny, Creators and Freighters.
Everyone always laughs about this. It's actually a pretty big franchise to be.
Okay.
But yes, it was actually very cool. It was a packing and shipping company. My mom was actually recruiting for them at the time. She was a small recruiter. And so she got me the interview and I got the job. It was probably more customer service than sales looking back, but people would call and I would give them a quote and try to get them to use our crate company to ship their merchandise. And Floyd Mayweather's assistant actually called once. So that was probably the coolest highlight.
Very
He
cool.
wanted to ship his daughter's glass bed. It was like a mirror bed and the whole like room set, and it was going to be like 20 grand, and he did not move forward. We'll just say
that's maybe he just bought a new bed at that point.
Yeah, I was like, honestly, that's a lot of money.
We don't want to carry the insurance on this. It feels a little dicey.
Yeah, no, I don't even know if we would insure it, to be totally honest.
So then after that, though, you got into your first real SaaS sales job. You started at Building Connected, correct?
Yeah. So this is such a vivid memory of mine because I remember looking out the window at Craters and Freighters and just being like, I feel like I'm destined for more. Like, I just remember feeling that way. And LinkedIn was a thing back then. So I got a LinkedIn message from a recruiter. And at that point, I didn't really understand like the value of LinkedIn or exactly what recruiters do. And so I was like, whatever, I'll just take the call. And so I took the call, and I remember having the first interview, and it was with Ross, who I'm still friends with to this day. And I just felt so good after that first interview. And so they brought me it was a WeWork in New York City.
Yeah.
And I was the first ever SDR. Like, they interviewed me. It was going to be the first ever SDR at the company. I didn't really know what an SDR did, and it was construction tech, and I didn't know anything about construction, okay? All I thought about construction was building shows up, and that's how that process goes. I had never thought about it. And so I went in for the interview with Mike Pettinella, who I'm still really close with. I just talked to him today, and I flunked the first 2 minutes. I just did so bad, literally. He was like, do you want to try again? And I was like, please. And so, but I remember going into New York City, and I remember thinking, if I get this job, I'm going to make it. Like, I remember it so vividly. My parents both worked in New York City. I never pictured I would work in New York, and I thought it was like the greatest thing ever. So Mike believed in me, and he put me through to the next round. He was the VP of sales at the time, so I was going to be working really closely with him and booking meetings actually for him. I had to do a panel interview with my CEO, the other VP of sales, and I was pretty much going to like present a little bit on Building Connected, but not super in-depthly, just kind of give an overview. And they drilled me with questions, and I knew them all. I knew all the answers. I came so prepared for that interview. They offered me the job on the spot. So I was so excited, and I started in New York City in September of 2016.
Amazing. And I want to dive into that prep a little, but I think like a good takeaway for hiring managers out there, because you were at Building Connected for four years almost, and you got promoted multiple times. Like, maybe give people a chance on an interview and even give them a second chance.
Yeah, I would say
you never know what could happen.
I think it was nerves too. It was like my intro. Like, he asked me a question and I totally diverted and was not paying attention to what he even asked me. But I was able to like take a step back and digest the questions. And he believed in me. Like, he saw something. I don't even know if I saw it in myself at that point, but I just knew I wanted to work there, and he gave me a chance, and I nailed the last interview. And I feel like I do that too for people. I interview a lot now. And at first, if someone has a tough beginning, like, I'll let them go through the call. I'll try to get a feel, try to like warm them up a little bit, make sure their nerves aren't, taking over. And by the end of a lot of calls, I'm like, hey, I'm so glad that I actually gave this person a shot, because I'm probably going to extend them an offer just based off our conversation. So yeah, nerves are real, especially recent college grads.
You got to pay it forward a little bit, right?
Yeah, I try to, because I've been in their shoes, and I see so many people that come through, and I'm like, you remind me of myself. Now,
how, in terms of getting ready for that interview and just being able to, panel interviews are super, super, super intimidating. Yeah. So how'd you get through that? Like, how'd you prepare for it?
Well, I had a recruiter, and the recruiter had prepped me a lot. The recruiter was like, this is the information you need to know. They didn't say like specific questions, but they were like, review the website, go through the history of the CEO. And I loved it. I was like, this makes total sense. I'm not from the construction world, but the one thing I do tell people too, or what's important to me, do some homework on the company. It really makes all the difference. Do some homework on who you're interviewing with, even if it's just going to their LinkedIn and looking at their background. You can find articles on these people, right, that you're interviewing with. Mm-hmm. There's an article that Muck Rack posted about me. It gives you good insight into what my day-to-day looks like and how I kind of grew my career. But I would say, yeah, even if you're not prepped by a recruiter, just do some homework on the company. It really makes a big difference.
Yeah, I mean, it's wild with the ability to get information these days, like understand somebody's background, like figure out what made them tick, how they got there, like look at somebody's LinkedIn profile. Yeah. And don't do it 2 minutes before you get on the call. Like,
because we can see that.
Yeah, it's like when somebody sees you got your profile viewed 5 minutes before you have an interview with them, you're like, oh no, you're looking right now.
Yeah.
Well, Kristen, in that article, like that article talks about how you manage your day and how you manage it quite effectively and how you handle maybe some challenges, mixing your personal and your work life. I mean, are you open to sharing that a little bit about how you manage your day so effectively and run the type of team you do?
My time management skills are impeccable at this point in my life. I'm just going to toot my own horn there because I have a 3-year-old. I'm a single parent. Okay. So he's reliant on me and I need to get my job done.
Yep.
And I will tell you the key to all this. I always work out before work because if I don't, my nerves are, and I'm very scatterbrained. I also eat a lot of protein because I'm all over the place. But I live by a planner. I live by my GCal. I put everything in there. People laugh because this week it's not as crazy because I gave my team lead a lot of my one-on-ones, but my calendar's like pretty stacked back to back. I could be doing something at every single given period of time during a day outside of even working. And I honestly prefer that because I know exactly what I need to be working on. But yeah. I'm a creature of habit and I like to do the same thing every day.
What time do you get up to get that workout in before your day gets started?
I usually get up between like 5:45 and 6.
Now, let me ask you, is your day already planned for that day at that point?
Usually I know what my workout's going to be. Usually like my son is off. He goes to a little daycare 3 days a week and then he's home 2 days a week. But yeah, I prioritize that stuff and I make sure, for the most part, my day's planned out. And I block things like a lunatic.
Now, let me ask you.
I mean, I have 22, right now I have 22 reps reporting to me and I owe it to them and I owe it to my son to like be on my game every day. So.
Now, let me ask you, did you always have that like that planning ability? Did you always have that like drive to have your day planned before you met it?
Yes. I remember living at my parents' house. I had a chalkboard in my room and it would say Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And this was right after graduation of college. I was living at home and I didn't have a real job yet. So I was nannying. And I would nanny in the morning and I would nanny in the afternoon. And then I'd have my workout class. I was still getting up at like 5 or 6 a.m. every morning as a recent college grad. And I'm not trying to say that as a way, like, you don't have to live your life that way. But I just know the type of personality that I have. And I just need to be focused to be effective. So that's just what works for me.
Yeah, but I think that planning piece, though, is like for anyone who's listening out there, that's like the big takeaway. It's like you can't let your day run you. You need to run your day.
This is what I tell my team. You got to create structure in an unstructured environment.
Now, let me ask you, how do you, as a leader now managing those recent college grads, how do you help them create structure or make them create structure when they are sitting at home, right?
Yeah. So I wouldn't say, so I don't want to paint the picture that like everyone on my team is recent college grads, because a lot of them are not.
Yeah.
A lot of them, I have a lot of teachers actually that have just transitioned out of
Nice.
teaching. I have people that have come from nonprofit worlds. I have previous mortgage salespeople. I had a tarot card reader. She was awesome, just got promoted. And I think part of that, I will bring on recent college grads, but I think part of why my team is so successful is because these people that I'm bringing on already have really strong organizational and time management skills. I'm not
Is that
actually teaching them. To an extent, I am, and I help people if they need to restructure their day or just like better their time management skills. But a lot of them come in with excellent time management skills.
is that one of your top qualities that you hire for?
Yes, time management skills is definitely one of them.
Okay, interesting.
It's in my interview questions. I want to know you have a calendar. I want to know you have a planner, and I want to know how your day is structured.
Very, very good. That's a good, like you dig into it on the interview.
I do.
I'm curious, does your personal calendar intersect with your work calendar? Like, do you tell your friends to like throw something out to send you an invite if you have like dinner on a Friday night or
No,
something?
I wish like I want a family calendar. I want my parents to invite so that I don't forget things. But I also recognize that not everybody feels like they need 20 calendars like me. But I just bought a planner the other day. I went to Walmart because I felt like I didn't have enough calendars and I couldn't see everything I needed to see. Love GCal, but I can't see all the things I have over the course of the months. I wish they would send me those calendar invites, but no, they would laugh if I asked them to.
I had a happy hour yesterday that wasn't in my calendar. And the only reason I was okay is my one friend bailed. And I was like, it wasn't in the calendar. So,
Yeah.
sorry.
A reason to opt out.
What's a learning or two that you'd pass off to like a current SDR that's looking to advance their career? What are some like words of wisdom that you'd give them?
I would say, well, I can think of someone on my team right now. My team lead is applying for a promotion. She's incredible. And so some things that I've talked to her about, you got to be an expert in your field. You have to immerse yourself in the product that you're selling, the people that you're selling to. You have to have a good understanding of what makes our team successful, things that we can improve on. And so I would say that that's definitely something that I pass on, just become an expert. I also think take every opportunity that you get really seriously. So if you do want to become a manager and you are going to apply and that comes up, take that interview super seriously. Prep hardcore for that, talk to as many people as you can, write down really great questions, come with questions, ask questions, Google stuff. I spend so much time on Google. It's probably bad. I Google everything, and also just trust the process. I'm a full believer in that. Trust the process. I remember when we had promoted a manager on the West Coast at Building Connected, which was acquired by Autodesk. I don't know if I have to say that. Yeah. And I had been working there longer than this specific person, but there wasn't a management opportunity open on the East Coast yet because my director was managing all of that. But I trusted my managers and I knew that they had my best interests at heart. I knew that they wanted that for me and that they would give me a shot when the need was, going to come to fruition. Yep. So I ended up interviewing later on. I got a promotion later on, but I still trusted the process. I didn't give up. I wasn't angry that he got promoted before me. I was like, awesome. That's incredible. And tell me everything that I need to know for when I do hopefully go for that promotion. So I think trusting the process is really important.
Kristen, in terms of being an expert, like you had to do that. So you admitted you knew nothing about the construction industry. You knew buildings just kind of went up. And then you transitioned from construction to now you sell to PR professionals, right? Mm-hmm. How did you become an expert in both of those capacities?
So construction is really interesting because I got really lucky that I was forced to sit in a really small office with my VP of sales and someone that actually came from the construction world and was selling. So he was actually working at one of our customers and then came over and was working at Building Connected. And I'll tell you what, I faked it till I made it. And I literally would absorb every single thing that I would hear that he would say. And I would actually be able to regurgitate that information to my prospects. Because at the end of the day, people aren't going to believe you if you're not credible. And I knew that. And I wanted to make myself sound as credible as I could. So I absorbed as much information as I could from them, and then was able to like regurgitate that info over the phone. I also listened to a ton of podcasts and like did a bunch of research and watched so many gong calls. At Muck Rack, it was a little bit different because I actually kind of studied this in college.
Yeah.
To an extent. And then I worked at a radio show. I interned at a radio show out of college, and I had my own little radio show in college. So I knew the value of PR and exactly like how that whole process worked. I had used a competitor of ours, and so I had a good understanding. But once again, I still needed to learn so much, especially becoming a manager and like stepping in, having people that were reporting to me at that point, and having to learn Muck Rack and having to learn the industry and the people that we were selling to. So lots of gong calls, learned how to demo the product. That was part of like my training. Did a bunch of research, used Muck Rack to look up companies that I was really excited about and see when they were getting press in the news. But a lot of it was just kind of like doing the extra homework. I wanted to be really good at my job, and I knew I wanted, and I've always felt this way. I'm dedicated to the companies that I work for, and I believe in them 100%. And I think you're able to convey that to people the more info you know and the more credible you are.
So whether you were sitting next to somebody in an office or you started your new job remotely, right? Because you started in February of 2020, and then a couple weeks later it was
March 2020, and then the shutdown happened 2 weeks later. Yeah,
there was no sitting next to somebody in an office and learning.
I went to the office one time. Yeah.
Either way, if you're sitting at home right now, or if you have the opportunity to go in the office, it's about learning, and getting as much information as you can.
Yeah.
What was your biggest surprise moving into a leadership role, running an SDR team? Like, what was the thing that no one told you about, maybe?
Which side? Like the side of just stepping into an SDR manager role, or like scaling an SDR team?
Well, both actually. I'm curious about just becoming a leader in general, I guess, and then scaling a team.
Building
Connected
was a little bit different because I was the first SDR there. So I felt like the team already saw me as a leader. I think the biggest challenge for me at that point was probably transitioning from a peer to a manager. And like all these people that I became friends with and that we were hanging out after work, all of a sudden now they're reporting to me. And if they don't hit their goal, it's a reflection on me. Right. And so that was probably the biggest challenge. Muck Rack was completely different. I came in, I had a couple of reps at that point. I had to build out all the processes. I definitely had no idea in the beginning what I was doing, for sure. That was my biggest challenge. I was like, I've never done this before. Everything at Building Connected was built out. I was just managing people, right? Supporting them. Came into Muck Rack. I'm building out these like training documents and like quotas. We had to change the quota at one point. Commission plans, accelerators, training, timelines, promotion, growth path. Like all of those things were not. We had some commission, but like a lot of those things were not in place. And so we were starting from scratch. And I promise you, there has been multiple times in my career where people have said to me, I can think of 2 times specifically, we're not sure if this is going to work. We're not sure if the SDR team's going to work, but we're going to try it. And I was like, no, it's going to work. And I'm going to make sure that it works. And so in both of those instances, at Building Connected and at Muck Rack, the teams have been extremely successful. So I'm so proud of that.
Kristen, going back into what you said at Building Connected, I think that's such a big challenge for people being promoted into leadership roles. You know, they're a good seller, good contributor, but they move into that role, and suddenly the person that they were at happy hour with last week is now reporting to them, and they were peers or their friends. Like, any tips or advice to anyone that is making that transition or is going to make that transition or maybe has it ready and is struggling with it?
Yeah, I would say you definitely have to set those boundaries. I'm a full believer in just being transparent at this point in my career. Like, you got to just be honest with people and set boundaries. I also think it's important to track everything. Like, if we use a tool called Lattice for tracking one-on-ones, I would track everything you possibly can, because you never know. I don't want to say this, but you never know if something could happen where, your friend and you are put against each other, and you just want to track everything, right? Because you don't want it to come back and bite you in the butt. So I believe in tracking your one-on-ones. If like you have a meeting, make sure you're going to it. If you're not going to it, make sure that there's clear reasons why you're not going to it. You have to be able to set those boundaries and treat everybody the same, whether you were best friends or a new acquaintance.
Yeah. No, I think it's important. You protect yourself, but you're also doing that individual a favor too.
Yeah.
You're giving them, feedback on their career, and that feedback loop can go both ways too. They can track it too.
Yeah.
In terms of when you sit down and you interview people, you already told me time management's one of your biggest, attributes that you look for. What are maybe some of your favorite interview questions or ways to find the right person for your team?
My favorite interview questions. I should have all of these memorized because I talk about them so much. And what's so funny is my brother's a SaaS recruiter for a company, and he's like, "Can you let me see some of your questions? Because I want to change up my interview." And he loved them. I was like, "Of course." One thing I love about Muck Rack too, and I can't take credit for this because this was all people ops, but every single interviewee that we ask for specific roles, we ask the same questions to everyone. It's not off the cuff. You can obviously follow up with specific questions, but we have a list of questions that we go off of. Everybody has the same treatment, right? And it makes it really easy to judge people off of how they answer those specific questions.
Yeah.
But I would say I always bring up the fact that we have a quota. I let them know you're in sales. There's going to be a quota, right? Most people on my team do hit or exceed the goals that we set. But how comfortable are you with carrying a quota? And what are you going to do to exceed the goals that we're setting for you? I also talk about collaborating. My team is very collaborative. So I talk about, like, give me an example of where you collaborated with people that were different from you. People always love that one, and it makes you think, I feel like. And so that's one that we talk about very often. We also talk about, tell me a time that you received a difficult piece of feedback and what you did with it. Were you able to self-reflect and implement that feedback? Because that self-reflection in this role is huge. You have to be able to look at your work and say, hey, I'm pretty sure these are the reasons why I did not have success last month, based off A, B, and C. So I'm going to change that this month. And so that's something that I always ask those specific questions.
I'm curious, and again, this is those sales leaders that have asked me, when those people aren't performing, you could be 10 miles or 100 miles or 1,000 miles away from them. What are some things you do to get that person to success? Or maybe you don't get them to success, and what are some of those steps that you take? Do you exit them from the business quickly? Do you coach them? Do you put them on pips?
Yeah. So we have a very strict, it's not very strict, right? But it's very clear, the plan. So you have to hit your quota X amount of times within a quarter, and you have to be in a certain ratio of hitting your goal. If that doesn't happen, and I go through this in training with them so that they know, they have all the documentation, have access, so it should not be a surprise. But I also would never surprise someone with a performance improvement plan. Yep. But yes, we do have a performance improvement plan that I will put people on. We work together. I give extremely detailed feedback on that plan. And there's multiple things that we're going to be looking for. We're going to be meeting multiple times a week. I'm going to make sure that you have access to not just me, but my team lead, other people within the company that can help you be successful, high performing SDRs or previous SDRs that can help. Obviously it's confidential, but I'll guide them towards those people. So we do super in-depth pips. And then sometimes it's just not a good fit, and that's okay. I take these very seriously because I feel like it's a reflection on me if somebody isn't performing. But with that being said, sometimes it's not a good fit, and that's okay too. But I will do everything in my power to make sure that this person has access to every possible support method as humanly possible.
Yeah, and you correct me if I'm wrong, you also have a reward program where it's clearly defined where you promote and reward people quickly too, right?
Yep. So we have spiffs, we have accelerators, we have very clear growth paths, we have internal promotions to a senior SDR. From there, if you hit the senior SDR promotion, you're able to apply to be an account executive. So we've promoted so many SDRs to AEs, and that's probably what promotions in general, seeing my team get promoted brings me the most job satisfaction, more so even than me hitting my own goals. And so, yes, and I think there's 3 reasons why I think our team is successful: the people, the processes, and the growth path.
Very cool. Very cool. Kristen, what are some of your goals? I mean, you're on a tear. You've grown through your career. Your company just raised $180 million Series A round, which is kind of insane. So what's next for you?
I'm just trying to digest what I have on my plate right now. One thing that I'm really excited about is the opportunity to manage managers, and that's coming really soon. We're promoting people, and I'm very, very excited about that because I think it's the next step in my career, and I love teaching other people just how to manage and how to give feedback and how to take feedback and implement that. I also think I love hearing from people how the team could be better too. And sometimes you just need a new set of eyes on things. So I'm very excited about that. I'm a huge proponent on goals. Like if there's one takeaway from this call, I write down goals monthly. Literally, I'm going to sound like a complete lunatic, but I manifest them. And every single goal I've ever set has come true. I'm not even kidding. It might take 2 years. It might take 5 years. It might take a month. But I swear by this, and I write it down. I feel like if I just say it out loud, it won't come true. So I have to write it down. And I have 5-year goals. I have monthly goals. I have not really daily goals. I mean, it's just survive another day and like make sure that you're doing it effectively. But I swear by this, and you have to set goals that are very granular and I feel like there needs to be a number associated with it. Yeah. But I swear by this, and I recommend doing it.
Yeah, one of my biggest things is when people are like, "Oh, I want to make money. That's why I want to get in sales." And if I can't get another layer down beyond why for the money, like that's kind of like a fake answer for me. It doesn't sit right for me personally.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very money motivated for sure, but even more so than the money, like job offers come through all the time. They could give me exponential amount of money, but this is like my baby. I feel like Muck Rack, the SDR team is like my baby, and just watching it grow provides me more job satisfaction than any amount of money.
Amazing. Kristen, we got a question from one of our live listeners. What's your favorite software or tool to use when managing your team?
Whoa. My favorite software or tool. Well, I brought on 2 tools since I've worked at Muck Rack. I brought on Lead IQ. Shout out to Lead IQ. I also brought on Chili Piper, which has made huge difference in our assignment process and being able to send leads to account executives quickly. But the easiest way for me to manage my team and just make sure that everybody's on track and doing what they're supposed to be doing is probably our CRM. I can see everything. I can see who's getting opens, who's getting replies, what they're saying back, activity levels, demos that are being set. Like I wouldn't be able to survive without my CRM. And if it went down, I don't know what I would do. And then also Slack, obviously, because I have to communicate with them.
Do you have your own internal CRM at Muck Rack that you use, or?
We use HubSpot.
And I have a question off of that one. So sometimes people that just manage through a CRM, they get you only care about numbers. It's all about metrics for you. Do you ever get that feedback? Do people ever say that to you?
I think it depends. No, I'm not like standing over anyone's shoulder being like, hey, I saw you didn't do, the amount of enrollments I talked to you about. It's the big picture for me. So if they're not pacing, if something seems off, I'm looking at more than just like how many enrollments they're doing. I'm looking at who they're reaching out to, the content that they're sending, the subject lines that they're using. I'm also looking at their open rates, reply rates, the engaged companies that they have, because all of that big picture comes together and is a really good determiner of success, more so than how many people you're putting into a sequence or how many calls you're making.
Amazing. I love that. Well, Kristen, we'll wrap up soon because I know you have a crazy big team. There's probably 20 people that are slacking you and messaging you right now.
I have my notifications muted, so yeah. I don't know.
But something I want to know, what's your favorite go-to meal? You're actually our third Jersey guest, so maybe it's a place I know. What's your favorite go-to meal, or if you could have one meal, what is it?
This is really hard for me, to be totally honest, because I don't feel like I'm like pretty chill about food in general, and there's not one thing. There's so many great things out there, but I will say Manja, there's a pizzeria called Manja in my area, and they make a grandma pie, and I could eat the whole pie by myself. I don't know if I should be proud of that or not, but it's unreal. Highly recommend.
You're like number 4 person out of like 7 guests that have had pizza. So like,
so good.
We're okay. You're in good company with that. Kristen, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure watching your career blossom since you've joined Muck Rack. We wish you tons and tons of success, and the whole team there, tons of success in the future. It looks like you guys are killing it. For those who are listening, next week we'll be doing a special broadcast live from SaaStr. Captivate Talent will be at booth 160. So tune in next week, same time. And that's it for today. Thanks so much, Kristen.
Thank you.